It was Zipporah that brought water and food to the pit every single day. Okay? So now, after 10 years, I mean, Zipporah keeps checking in on this guy. I mean, clearly, she's like, she's into him. She's totally into him, right? I mean, she's sustaining him 10 years. I don't know how old she was. That's a good question. So let's look into that. Let's see if we can find that answer. So after 10 years, she goes to her father. She goes, 10 years. That is. I don't know. It's interesting. Like, first of all, I don't know. Like, we have, Jacob worked for 7 years for Rachel and 7 years for Leah. I mean, years and years of, you see a lot of waiting in the Torah. There's the patience that to get through these years and years of sacrifice and commitment. We see that again and again. But after 10 years, Zipporah goes to her father and says, Dad, you know that guy that you threw into the pit 10 years ago? And he's like, yeah, I mean, he's no longer alive. And she's like, well, maybe he is alive. He said, that's impossible. So she said, well, why don't we go check? Because 10 years have passed, no one's come looking for him. There's no threat to us. And she goes with her father to the well, and he is alive. Now, clearly, Zipporah is a woman of a lot of faith and strength and smartness. Like, we talked about the qualities of women, like the Bina Yitzhira, like the intuition of just knowing what needed to be done. Like, did she have any prophecies? Did she know that this guy was not just, he wasn't a simple guy. This was the future of the Jewish people leaving Egypt. It was going to be Moses. And it was her that saved his life. So when she comes to the pit with her father and they see he's alive, he says, how is this possible? So she doesn't want to get herself into trouble. So she kind of just, she says, Dad, the God of the Hebrews is a miraculous God. It's terrible. And then she tells her father the stories of Abraham coming out of the fiery furnace alive, and the story of Jacob fighting with the angel and with the sword and still managing to be okay and to survive. And she even tells the story of this Moses. She says they put him into a basket and put him down the Nile River, and here he is. He keeps surviving. This is a miraculous nation, and God is with him. God is with the Jewish people. So we do know that Yisro, this man Jethro, becomes a convert. And I think, not confirming, I don't know what the steps were in his process, but clearly these are the seeds that are being planted from his daughter Zipporah. He's planting the faith in God, that there is one God, that the Jewish people, and he's an idol worshiper. He was well known for his idolatry. And he becomes a very king at the end of his life. And we actually have one of the chapters, one of the parshiot in the Torah is called Parshat Yitro. Like, it's named after him, which is a really great honor. Yeah, right where we read the 10 Commandments in Parshat Yitro. Yeah. What I love about that Parshat Yitro, is there are lots of commentaries that speak about what encouraged him to become a Jew. I never knew this part about his daughter planting the seeds. This is the first that I heard about it when I was doing my research today. But the part that I love, the part that I find so inspiring about Yisro's story, is that it was splitting that inspired him. And he heard about it. He said the whole world knew about this place. Every cup with water split into two. Like, everything split around the world at that moment. It was really like a revelation, like a national revelation that happened. Everyone was talking about it. But when that happened, he looked himself in the mirror, so to speak, and he said, in water, whose nature is to flow and become dry land and can split, then maybe me, I'm just an idol worshiper through and through. My father was an idol worshiper. Like, this is who I am. Maybe I could also change my ways, and maybe I could become a Jew. And that was one of the commentaries speaks about his inspiration, thinking like, if water could change its nature, then maybe I could change my nature. It's quite an inspiring idea of, like, we could all change our natures. Like, instead of leaning on, this is the family I was brought into, this is my my social economic, situation. This is, if only he, if only my parents. Like there's so much that we could blame on, but what he took was I could change my path moving forward. Right? I don't need to be the same person tomorrow that I am today. His whole life. So we see over here that his daughter has a lot to do with it. Okay, so that's Zipporah. Now, does anyone know what the name Zipporah means? Okay. Good, bird. Okay, like this Zipporah. You know that song? No one knows that song? Okay, so a bird. Okay, so let's think about this bird right now. What this really means is. Okay, so I learned today that, and we're just coming off of last week talking about Miriam and leprosy. So there was something that would atone from leprosy was the blood of a bird in the home. The blood of the bird in a home had an atonement, and Zipporah, which means bird, she was the one to atone for the idol worship in her home. Okay, it wasn't for blood, but let's talk about blood for a second, because this is the very well-known part about Zipporah. She is a very courageous woman, and at a certain point in her marriage, when she has her two boys, and they're traveling through the desert, and her life was not simple. Being married to Moses was not simple, but Moses made a mistake. He did not circumcise his sons. It was a complicated situation for their travel. Maybe it wasn't safe to do it at the time. Whatever he thought, I'm sure Moses had good intentions, but Moses was wrong. And the commentaries tell us that Moses was actually going to be put for that punishment. So once again, Zipporah, this shy girl, like I don't know what her personality was, but she has no choice but to step up to the plate, and she takes it as a flint, which I guess is some type of a knife, and she actually circumcises her sons. And her husband, who was struggling at the time for his life, he lives. So these are just some of this. So talking about blood, I mean, the atonement and all of that, she is not a simple person. Okay, she saves his life not once, but 2 times. Okay, so that's a little bit about Zipporah. Another thing that I loved in my studying today, Zipporah was the one to decide that she wanted to marry Moshe. It wasn't just so progressive. She actually asks her father for permission, and at that point, her father is totally on board. But the commentaries say how she fell in love with him, and she's the one that she kind of took the initiative. So she was pretty progressive in that way. And she was a very strong person, as I said, when Moshe and Zipporah, their 2 children, were heading back to Egypt he was going to save the Jewish people. So Aaron, Moshe's brother, stops him at the border and says, "You really don't want to bring your wife and your children into this mess. It's a disaster. Let her go to her father's house." And anyway, so she's a very independent woman. Like she turns around at that border with her 2 sons, and she heads back to Midian by herself, and she doesn't see her husband for over a year. So there's a lot of hardships that she goes through, and then when she's united with him, it's not her husband. It's not the guy that she once knew. It's a different guy, and he's talking to God every day, and he has to be so holy and pious. And this is it's a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice that she made for the Jewish people. So something else that's very well known about this woman is that she's called the Black woman. The Black woman. Yeah, you want to do that? Yeah. Okay, dark skin. Okay. So it's interesting that she's called a Cushite woman and not a Nubian woman. So there's something about her on a physical way, but everything on the physical level represents something on the spiritual level. So when I looked at this, what it means, like what does it mean to be a Cushite? Is it an endearing term? Well, I wonder what nowadays versus thousands of years ago. I actually think it was a very endearing term. It was. She was a beautiful woman. I mean, I don't think Moses would have married just anyone. She was probably drop dead gorgeous. Big, big, big. But I think there was definitely something about her that was very beautiful. But I'll tell you what it says over here. So so in those times, I mean, I could only imagine that most of the nice Ashkenazi Jewish men were pale skinned, short. You know, like I'm just like, right, I don't know, like I'll go on. But like at that time, I don't know. No Ashkenazi men. Okay, but when you think, I mean, I think we've all seen the Ten Commandments, the movie, right? So we all so we have a picture in our head of what Moses, those biceps, like what Moses may have looked like. But that kind of plays with our minds a little bit, right? Come on, we all like it was always on New Year's. They always like play their reruns on New Year's. It's so funny, but we've all grown up on that movie, so we have like a distorted almost vision of what it's dangerous to have. How do you show the Torah characters and like we have no idea how gorgeous they were, because it was their spiritual light was so radiant. You can't even, I don't think people are even like that nowadays. They have like carne or like horns of light that emanated from them. So rays of light. Yes, you're right. So right, that's right. The misunderstanding of anti-Semitism that they have horns. Oh, right. Yes. Okay. Yeah, let's hear Rabbi Google. I don't know. Okay, yeah. Right. I guess so. It's funny how we all have it in our mind. What I see Moshe as like such an Ashkenazi boy, but you're totally right. We don't know, but she is described. Yeah. So she is described as a Cushite, which means all it means is that she stood out from other people. Okay, beautiful, right? So here's what I understand. So on a physical level, she stood out, but on a character level, she also stood out. She was immediately noticeable. There was something about her that was exceptional. Okay, and the words that are described about her exceptionalness is her modesty and her unassuming. Okay? She was so like, what needs to be done? Oh, my husband messed up. Okay, I got it. I'm gonna circumcise my son. It's like seriously, like not. I think babies, but they were waiting until they stopped traveling, and then Moses probably got busy with something else. Like they didn't do it on the 8th day. And then, you know. The oldest of like 6 girls, a bunch of girls. Like she still had a bunch of daughters. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know it's they didn't. Yeah. She was definitely a hardcore, you know. Okay, conversions in the Torah are so different than they are today. Like the paradigm for a convert in the Torah is Ruth, right? Ruth is the famous conversion story, and you see her conversion. she basically goes all in with her heart, and she says, wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you lie, I will lie. Your God is my God. You know, I'm with you. I'm 100. Wherever you die, I will die, and there I'll be buried. She has this short speech, and she's a Jew. There was no mikvah, there was no process, there was no curriculum. It was, right? No fees. She was all in. So we don't see any, I don't know when convergence came in the way that it's come to be, and it's still changing every single day. But that's a good question. Like, we don't know. I mean, when we hear, I think last week, I'm not sure, we spoke about Batya, which was the daughter of Paro, right? Who found Moses, and she was also one of these incredible women that saves the day for the Jewish people, saves Moses, takes him in, nurtures him, lets him grow up as her own in the palace. So we also know that when she's in the Nile River, the commentaries speak about her converting to Judaism. That was her in the mikvah, so to speak, converting, and her name, Batya, the daughter of God, changes her name in that moment. Okay, so it's a good question, and it's very interesting to understand. But a lot of people did come from other nations. There were only one or two nations that Hashem said you should not marry in with those nations. Right? Is it Ammoni and Moab? Well, Amalek for sure not, because they always, it wasn't a few team. It was, I think, Moab and Mori. And even with that, I think there have been converts from those nations, but it wasn't a common way. Yeah, I think so. So it's interesting. Things have definitely changed and shifted. Yeah. So, anyways, we're gonna end this chapter. I just want to. There's a lot more here. Does anyone know the name of their first son? First and second, right? They have two sons. Gershon. It's not Gershon. Gershon, which means stranger there, because Moses was always an outsider. He was a stranger in a strange land. He never really fit in. So they named their son Stranger There. Like, don't forget where you come from. Stranger There. Hey, Stranger There. Okay. It's Gershon, Eliezer. Okay. Okay. We're gonna try to sum up her character. Okay. So something, okay, because we're really trying to like pull down the traits, the strengths, just to kind of see what we have in our DNA from these incredible women and men, but we're really trying to focus on the women, Eliezer, like Gershom and Eliezer. So something that we see again and again with this woman is her alacrity. Alacrity, and that's like, it is. Alacrity is like the ability to get something done, the ability to see a need and fill the need. Not to like think about it and toil over it, but swiftly, right? In Hebrew we say alacrity. It's just like to get it done. So we see again and again that it's the opposite of procrastination, which is like the plague of our generation. Like, yeah, that's it, right? She was just very proactive and made things happen. So with good humor, definitely. Yeah. So it does say here that there are very few words that are written about Zipporah. There's very little that we know. And something that, because we don't hear so much, we almost feel that she's quiet. And it says here that quiet does not mean insignificant. That she took action. She didn't need fanfare. She didn't need to be liked. She did what was right. She definitely took risks in her life. Could be her father could have been found out what she was doing for those 10 years. When she was a child, it she didn't care what the outcome would be as long as she felt like it was the right thing to do. I don't know. I don't know. And I mean, that was new to me today when I read that. So I'm just going to read just one chapter, one paragraph to close this topic of Tzipora. So as we learned, Tzipora means a bird. And if each woman in the Torah, in the Tanakh, because it's beyond the Torah is only the 5 books. The Tanakh is Torah, Nevi'im, which is the prophets, and Ketuvim, which is like Megillahs and all the other parts of it, the book of Psalms, the book of Proverbs, all of that. So when we say Tanakh, and we're going from the Torah, we're actually going to beyond the Torah, the next couple of women. So when we look at these women, and we want to ask ourselves, like, do I have a little bit of Tzipora in me, right? Are you the beautiful but fierce hummingbird who, though small, will defend her territory and dive bomb those who are hundreds of times larger than you? Are you like the swan in the story of the ugly duckling who thinks she is less than, but then she discovers her grace and majesty as she matures? Are you the robin who fills the world with song, the owl who symbolizes wisdom, or the flamingo who fills the world with vibrant color? So she kind of, I feel like Tzipora represents, I mean, she's a bird, but maybe we could all see ourselves as the different birds that all have their magnificence and their gifts to the world. Yeah, so I'll just read you the last few lines. Most of you, are you willing to take your place within this nation? It is the unity of every individual that makes the nation whole and complete. Every contribution and every soul matters. It's not just the obvious main stage women and men making the boldest of contributions who might light up the world. There is untold light in whispering a sincere prayer, lovingly changing a diaper, saying a kind word, or learning Torah that enriches you as you are doing right now. So that's the end of the chapter on Tzipora, another incredible woman. And next week, we learn about the prostitute Rahab. Stay tuned. Come back for more. So amazing. Yes. Yeah. It really is. Right. Right. Regal. It really, really is. And that's really who she was. Like she, we don't know a lot about her, but it's like once you understand the lay of the land, the lay of the story of, she was that pillar of strength to encourage her husband to be the man that he needed to become. Like there's very little fanfare for her, but Moses couldn't do his job without his wife to hold him up the fort. It's true. It's true. It is so true. Right. Okay. So good to see you guys. Thank you for joining. Hi, everybody over here. Bye, Joyce. Bye, Judy. Bye, Amy. I'm sorry that we had some technical difficulty before. But bye, Heather.
Bye.
Bye, Hannah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, Amy.